This is a clip from Beyond Classified. You can access the entire episode now at rockfin.com/FKN+.
So let's talk about gender confusion. So I really want to stress this. This is where I get that nowadays, and like just in the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, maybe less, has been this huge explosion of propaganda around transgender people. But are you aware that many common things affect the location of your genitalia and your gender preference? So again, remember we talked a little bit about when the specific hormones and chemicals in utero aren't right, people might be born with different genetics than what their body looks like, okay? And so this includes prenatal exposure to androgens. Androgens are found in pesticides and insecticides and herbicides, and they have a direct effect on the developing fetus. And if you're eating GMO foods, that's even worse, because a lot of GMO foods have crossed the food item, like the wheat, with Roundup, so that they've got their built-in pesticides and insecticides and herbicides. Unfortunately, then, your mom buys the flour and makes a loaf of bread, or buys a loaf of bread to make sandwiches. And here she's taking in all these chemicals that are having a direct effect on the fetus, not just on the developing fetus, but even on the genetics. So people are now being born that are, usually it's XX female, XY male. People are now being born XYX, XYY, XXX. So we're not only, I think this also serves with the transhumanist agenda, okay? So that people are becoming all kinds of genetics that they never were before. Well, that's going to cause, that's going to influence how people view themselves, how they feel in the sex they were assigned, or even the genitalia that they're born with. So then toxins are another thing that cause these kind of, I'm just going to say abnormalities. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but until recently, they were considered abnormalities. So toxins like cleaning products and solvents. So then they found out that, say your dad works as a painter, or he works as an auto mechanic, and he's cleaning, mechanical parts with solvents. Those affect his sperm. And so his sperm, the DNA that's in the sperm, is going to be altered and basically contaminated. So when it impregnates the egg, there's going to be genetic abnormalities and developmental abnormalities. Well, no one's talking about this, and yet it's absolutely true. If your mother works with a lot of cleaning products, or she works in a factory where they handle chemicals and stuff, that can affect the DNA in the egg. So then when the sperm and the egg come together, they're not creating human beings as they were 100 years ago. We're getting genetic adaptations to these toxins that are being introduced, as well as affecting the development of the fetus in utero. And then there's other contaminants. Now, I'm sure a lot of you won't be surprised by this: pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are synthetic chemicals that our bodies don't know what to do with. That's why people that take a lot of pills, they don't get any better, they get worse. So pharmaceuticals are, when mom takes them when she's pregnant, or even before she gets pregnant, that's affecting the development of the fetus. And also there's inadequate nutrition. So a lot of people are, relying on cheap processed foods, fast foods, these kind of things. That also has the same effect. So you can see that this whole transgender thing is just a massive mess of chemicals. All of these are coming from what? Corporations. They're coming from big corporations. They're coming from pharma. So you can see here's all the biological influences alone. So sooner or later, there's going to be an explosion of people who don't act, think, and look the way they did 100 years ago. And you're not going to believe this, Chris, but as a result, babies are sometimes born with what we call ambiguous genitalia. It's estimated that 1 in every 200 births has ambiguous genitalia. What does that mean? You might be born with ovaries and a penis, or you might be born with a vagina and external testes, And so it's the standard medical practice to surgically turn all of these intersex babies into females. And this often results in gender confusion and gender dysphoria. So you might have an XY chromosome that you're male, but your mom or your dad was exposed to toxins. And so they just got to whack it all off and turn it all into females. So you're telling me down the road that isn't going to cause some problems. One case that we studied in university quite extensively was a set of twins, and one of the twins actually they were being circumcised, and one of the twins, the circumcision went terribly wrong, and they decided to default that male twin into being a girl. And so they raised him as a girl, everything. And he knew something was wrong. He knew he was supposed to look like his brother. He knew he was supposed to be like his brother, but he was constantly being socialized to being a little girl, and he hated it. And when he got into his teens, he actually took his parents and the medical industry to court so that he could go back to being a boy. But once that penis is lopped off, how are you supposed to get that back? I'll never know. Sorry, I don't mean to be
right.
Irreverent, but I'm just saying it how I see it. Do you have any questions about all this, Chris?
No, but when you look at what's going on with the experimental people are getting, there's plenty of evidence that it's causing mass sterilization as well. So that's just something else that we have to worry about for future generations, or not future generations if no one's going to be able to have kids anymore. Yeah. So that's a whole different show, though. But yeah.
Well, continue. It is, but it's tied in. It's definitely tied in, Yeah. And what about all the women who got, the oogly boogly, and they ended up having live births? What's going to happen to those children down the road? I have no idea.
Right.
So this is where we get into the problem, reaction, solution scenario that we're seeing everywhere today. So our toxic environment, the pharmaceutical and the medical industries are creating intersex people and peoples whose genitalia do not match their genetics. And this is the main cause of gender dysphoria. It's not like they just wake up one day and go, oh no, I feel like I'm the wrong sex. I got a vagina, but I really feel like a man. It doesn't work that way. There's reasons for everything. So the problem is that many people are now identifying as transgender, and the media is flooded with images. Some of them are quite grotesque, of people who are on the transgender spectrum. So the reaction from people is people are identifying as transgender, and they're being diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and the general population is in shock from this abrupt change in social norms. I mean, we're just getting used to the whole idea of people being gay. Well, not me personally, but I'm talking as a, Western society.
Right.
And then this whole transgender thing landed and has exploded like a bomb, right?
Yeah.
And so what's the solution? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, for me, it's none of this really affects my life. I could care less if you're gay, straight, transsexual, identify as this, a pot, a pan, a cat, a dog. I don't care. People should be able to live their own lives. What bothers me is the mainstream media and powers that be and everything that I have to watch on TV is trying to force their lifestyle into my life. And not only that, I don't have kids. I'm glad I don't have kids because I wouldn't want them to be subjected to what today's kids are being subjected to and forced upon. And they've got people that are basically from the earliest age, grooming children to be a sex that they weren't born as, or grooming children to be something that the mother and father want them to be, or a sex that, or a sexual preference that the mother and father want them to have. It's really disgusting what's going on when you look at that side of it, and that's the side that bothers me. That's the side that I think is the problem right now.